Welcome back to NTV Today, and I have in studio Dr. Moses Kiaria. He is offering himself as an independent candidate for the Nyandarua governor's seat. Charles Munyui, who is a political analyst, and Dennis Anyoka, offering himself as a West Mugirango Member of Parliament as an independent candidate. I'll start with you as we continue with the issues of promises. And in the week, we've seen the accusation that there's been some copycat syndrome of sorts on promises made, where Jubilee said the free secondary education, NASA came back and said, at least the flag bearer said that they were the ones who were offering this first. As someone who has background in education, at least a PhD for that matter, this issue of free secondary education, how feasible is it offering this to the whole entire nation and to sustain it?
I know it's not easy to sustain it, but we know the importance of education to a society.
Everyone knows. We would want to be free until even university. But to really test this promise.
And that is why any serious government would like to go to any length to make sure that it has educated society. And that is why when Jubilee says that they're going to offer free primary and free secondary education, bearing in mind that our society has been impoverished for a long time, I think that is the way to go. I happen to come from a very humble background, and I know how difficult it is for some children of this country to get education. And that is the only opening that these children can become useful in future. So I am saying NASA, the same way, they first of all isn't what Jubilee is saying, and then they copycat, and then they say that's their project.
All right, I'll let Dennis respond to this first, and then Charles. I mean, again, ownership or trying to claim ownership over certain promises, is that really the core issue here? And I mean, if we interrogate it just for the heck of argument, is it more one or the other?
I don't think so, because first, there's nobody who has monopoly of ideas and knowledge. As you rightly put it, everybody knows the value and the importance of education, and as much as possible, we want to give free education. And for a government that has not, for a team that intends to take government, they cannot really give the dynamics during a political platform to say, this is how we'll do it. And obviously, we'll want to have Jubilee as trying to do something on education, what we call free education. But the question I could have expected that Jubilee responds to or deals with as they go along, around giving their promises, is how has been the quality of education. When you talk about free education, so far what they have tested, what has happened? We really have a lot of problems with this free education. I can tell you for a fact, and you can quote me on this. Go to most of the public institutions. The amount of money government is saying that is sending us free education money. Parents are paying extra money that is not being receipted, so that they can be able to finance these, and with a lot of difficulty, because of course the minister has been very hard on parents and the institutions. They don't want to collect more money, but the institution cannot run with the amount of the government is giving. So what we expected Jubilee to do more is to look to audit what it has been able to do and reassess whether we need to move, because still it's government. Uhuru still is the president. The government is still in place till we get a different government. What we expect them to have done is to give us a proper explanation that we think that this is what we've tried. We need to perfect it. We need probably to increase the funding to these education systems so that we get quality education. Probably the first starting point could be that we remove this concept of, which I think right now is happening at the university level, of saying this is a private school, this is a public school. Make it accessible across the board. Let the fees be the same. Let government subsidize. Probably that is the direction that we should have taken, rather than saying give free education, which is not working.
That is why Jubilee has offered even private school exam free. Jubilee has started going that direction.
Let's talk to the reality of this, because they seem to, they're definitely appealing to the desires of every Kenyan. You hear it in the response at rallies when they say, we'll give you this free education. Without even questioning, they will cheer on the political leaders. So is this just a tactic that won't be realized?
First, let me start by saying I'm happy that NASA has appreciated the need for Kenyans to have free education at the secondary level. Having said that, I have a problem when people talk about quality. We must be able to learn to chew and walk at the same time. You're telling me that we should remain at a transition of 60% from secondary from primary to secondary schools. What happens to the 40%, 30% of young people who don't transit from primary school to secondary schools? Can you explain to me how that feels, number one? Number two, when you're talking about, I was talking to the Kupet chairman yesterday, and he said there are countries in this continent of Africa that are lower than us in terms of GDP that have been doing this, have done this for quite a while. They've been giving out free primary and secondary education. I think to me what is important is priorities, and I'm happy. That's why I said I'm happy that NASA, meaning the MPs who join the National Assembly and the Senate in August, will be able, because the first role of the Member of Parliament at the National Assembly is division of revenue, money that goes to the counties, money that remains with the national government. And more importantly, the money that remains with the national government, they'll be able to do allocation and ensure education is properly funded.
That's in an ideal situation.
Yes.
But on the reality of it, are we just hearing these promises just to get the vote, woo the voters, and then once in office, we start crying about the complications of moving this forward and implementing
Mark, as we speak right now, a woman walks into a maternity hospital, does not pay a penny, be it cesarean section, whatever it is, that has been delivered. We have seen free things being given, and it's working. Mark, as we speak right now, you start your examination at Form 4, you've passed or not passed, you get your certificate, whether you have cleared your fee balance or not. I think Jubilee has proven that they can actually deliver on these free services without, and I think what they need is a better mechanism to communicate with the people so that people start trusting, and let them raise the issues that they've delivered for free, so that a gentleman like my colleague here will not pick on the negatives and say, let us first deliver on quality. Quality is good, but can we do the quality as we provide our young people with education at the same time?
Well, Dennis.
Mark, I just want to mention a few things, that it's very easy to simply say that we are able to do this when we see in reality on the ground there are different challenges. I'll tell you for free, there are very many institutions, and in my politics, when sometimes you go to the ground, you find a lot of people coming to you telling you that we can't get our certificates. Yet there is a presidential directive, there is, there is these media statements saying that you will be given your certificate, this will happen. I wish, for instance, a government that is in office not to go to the public rallies and make policy decisions at that stage. That is the concern that I have with Jubilee. That if such an issue is a policy decision, it needs to be looked through the stakeholders to see what is the reality, what is the possibility that this can be able to happen, so that they do not just excite Kenyans when you have a problem. I'll tell you, there are very many Kenyans who sat for their examinations. They don't. We are giving money in the ground to say, okay, you need some 5,000 to go clear your fees and get the money, and that's what we are facing, the reality on the ground.
Right.
Yet we know, about 2 or 3 years, about 2 years ago, actually, government said that if you have searched for your KCSE, you have your certificate withheld in school, go collect it.
Okay.
Mark, my colleague is a court officer. He knows the reason as to why we have jails is because there are people who will always break the law. I mean, if someone has not given out a certificate and he knows this person has not issued a certificate to a kid who has, and the instructions are very clear from the ministry, what else do you want? It is like capturing someone on CCTV stealing from you, and you don't take the basic steps of reporting the theft to the relevant authorities. I think we need now to take seriously. Matiang'i is doing a good job. Matiang'i, honestly, if you tell me there's a kid who's not been issued with a certificate simply because the headmaster is too big, then I'll be a little amazed at that.
All right, let's move it on a bit more in terms of the conversation. We have two independents, although it does sound that
I'm balancing.
Independent on Jubilee and independent on NASA, as you follow the conversation. You call yourself AKA Badilisha.
Yes.
What exactly as an independent are you going to badilisha? First of all, it is your right to run as an independent. Were you edged out of the Jubilee race as a candidate?
I want to appreciate that Kenya's politics started evolving long time ago. Back in 1963, when we had the first election, we still had independent candidates, though on a very limited scale. And it has gone like that, and then in 1969, we almost became a one-party country up to around 1991, when again Section 2A was repealed, and then we became a multi-party.
Yes. Let's talk 2017. And the word independent is everywhere now.
So 2017 independent candidate has been caused by poor management of primaries. To an extent that to the public now it was not acceptable, because even early along in those other early elections, people were failing and some were feeling oppressed, but this time round it was too much.
So were you edged out in the Jubilee race?
Yes.
So if you do know that this is a Jubilee stronghold in terms of Nyandarua, What hopes realistically do you have running as an independent?
I have
Knowing the patterns of
have high hope. I have high hopes. Yesterday, three appellate judges ruled that the election of women in Pinjandarwa was not free and fair. In fact, it was cancelled, and I hope we are going to repeat the elections tomorrow or nominations tomorrow. Meaning that is a true sign of showing that the nominations were shambolic. And that is what the people believe, and they have told us it's you whom we want to push our agenda, so come back.
Well, that's good to say, but there's the timeline issue here, and there's a reality that you're moving forward as an independent and your other challenges. Let me throw this at your counterpart, well, not quite counterpart, because he's running for West Mugirango, Member of Parliament, as an independent. Are you running it, in the shadow of NASA in your area? What impact do you want to bring as an independent?
If you look at my mantra, or what the AKA, the name that we use is a man of the people, translated in English. And my candidature all along has been based on issues, the reality on the ground. I'm born and bred in my village. I've only been out of that village to look for, some economic stability and professional progression. Otherwise, I appreciate and understand the real issues that are on the ground and our people. And whenever I speak to the people, I'm one of the few youths who, when I share with people, I don't dish out money, because I don't have that kind of money to give to people, which I see other politicians are doing. And people are listening, and people are not stupid. Because when you listen to the constituents and the issues they are raising, you realize that it's not about money. They are not really interested. If they take your money, I can assure you, it's just because you offered it, and they will not take it, turn it down, but their intentions are noble, and they have different intentions altogether of getting the right leaders. That is how I became a force in my own capacity, because we connect with the people. For instance, I'll tell you, there are sections of my place which people can't access because the roads are terrible. And when you ask the county government, they will tell you it's supposed to be national government. You ask the national government leaders, they tell you it's supposed to be county government. People are being tossed, and I tell the people, we do not have a citizen for the county government and a separate citizen for the national government. We have, some level of joinder of these two governments. You look at Section 6 of the Constitution, which says the government must work in harmony and consultation. So we come in, I come in as a professional who appreciates the real issues, and we want to change them. And want to see that people actually, we correct the things that needs to be corrected, put the resources where it's supposed to be put, then we are able to change the lives of our people on the real indicators that can make our people move forward. Right. Education will be one of them. I'll tell you that there are a lot of students, children in my constituency who will fail to go beyond class 8 and even from 4 because they cannot afford basic funding. Yet you find the school fees per year is about 10,000 shillings, 8,000 shillings. I've had students come to me, they are not able to proceed. They want to be brought to Nairobi and try to be house helps. And we're trying to put them back to school through a different channel. But you see, as an individual capacity, you can't do much. You need to be in a position of influence, position of policy decision, and so that you can change these issues.
And you feel your independent position is strong enough?
I believe it
has enough influence. Charles, yes. How much sway will the independents have? Because in many cases, it seems they're disgruntled members of who had hoped to either clinch the primaries from the dominant parties, but when they were locked out, they ran as independents. How much sway do they really have?
Let's start with appreciating that the independents, I think 90% of the independents are not what the Constitution envisaged. Because this is actually sort of like party hopping. Because you went through primaries and did not get it. Otherwise, they are independents, true independents who went independent way before the nomination. And I think those are the ones that are suffering collectively with everyone else, because now even the fact that they did not associate with any political party is not coming into play right now. And that is what was expected. Like you said, they have every right to vie because there was a window that was there. There was a gap that allowed them to again participate in elections as independent. And we cannot gainsay that now. Importantly, if you come from an area that has a strong presidential candidate or contender, as it were right now, be it ODM, Raila NASA, or Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Mount Kenya Central Region, he does not have to say anything. He only needs to point out through proxies that, gentlemen and ladies, this is the direction we need to go. Anybody who is vying, moving in this direction is antagonizing me. And I think that is why you've seen independents coming together and saying, kindly don't say anything to that effect. Don't do anything, especially those aligned to Jubilee. But I think to me what is important, if you are genuinely locked out of the nominations, and the people have seen that, You need now to work very hard to ensure that that is appreciated. But more importantly, remind the people that of what you can do, because it's not just about the fact that you are locked out. It should be about your capacity, your ability, and your qualifications for this particular position against a backdrop of you are where you are fighting against someone who already has an advantage because now they are working with a strong presidential contender.
Well, in matters of consolidation of numbers, don't such elements, you say 90% of the independents are not what the Constitution envisaged, but aren't they, spoiling or, the numbers in terms of consolidation, the independents?
I really don't.
In terms of strategy?
I really don't think so. Initially, they'll want to come together so that they show they have might. And you've seen that happening. But I think moving forward, people will go back to where they are vying, and they'll start talking to their respective voters, irrespective of what is happening in the neighboring constituencies.
All right, my director is on my neck here to wind up. But your last say on the issue of the declaration, whether at constituency level or national level, gentlemen, across the table as we wind up. I'll start with you, Dennis.
I'll be very shy saying a lot because the matter is alive in court.
Alive in court, yes. As an advocate, you'll say that.
And as an advocate, we are about not to really address issues that are still being adjudicated. But
what's your favorite position?
Let me say that we could love so much to have the declaration made at the constituency to avoid a situation where anybody manipulates the figures in the process, because under the law, the person declared to have won is the one who has won. That is the position. Even if the documents show something else, that is it. So if there is the person, the returning officer who is supposed to do the declaration, then declares, for example, that Honorable Okoro Court is the elected president, even if you made a mistake, that becomes the president. So if the documents show something different, then it becomes a legal issue. But if the interpretation of that, the final results at the constituency level it will be the final declaration, it's a question of computing, then that will be something else.
Dr. Moses.
As for me, I want to believe that the declaration at the constituency level will be very chaotic, because that is like having about 290 returning officers for the presidential elections. And so the best thing would be let the constituency produce their results, and then we have the one who is allowed by the law to declare the results, such that we only have one returning officer for the presidential.
Well, we'll see who the law declares it on 23rd. Are we misinterpreting this? Is it, are we raising an alarm where there shouldn't be?
I think so, and especially the fact that it's polarizing this country. It looks like it's, every time you see the Attorney General, you see IEBC, it looks like it's government. And when you see government, you see Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. There's a very thin line between Uhuru, the candidate, and Uhuru, the President of the Republic of Kenya. And NASA, on the other side, they're enjoined in this matter, as it were. Like my said, this matter is sub judice, it's before the courts. But I think the misinterpretation, especially of the provisions of Article 138 and Article 86, where IEBC is required entirely, among other things, to ensure that results, or rather vote after voting, there is counting and tallying. It is the commas and the full stops that will determine whether you are saying then the declaration, whether the presidential returning officer is 1 or 290. And I think that is the gist of the matter here. And
the matter is alive in court, we'll, as Bwana Dennis Anyoka has said. So we'll let it rest at that and wait on for the 23rd for the ruling. And all the best, gentlemen, as independent candidates. Dennis Anyoka for West Mugirango Member Parliament, and Dr. Moses Kiaria for Nyandarua governance race. And thank you, Charles Munyui, for your thoughts on this. We'll have you more on this as we are in the political season.